Everybody, welcome to the Don J MMA podcast. I'm here with the Don Dada. I've tried this take twice, would you believe it, people? But it sounds as fresh as the first one. Don, how are you?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. Some big fights have just been announced, so we'll have to get our opinions on them, break them down, see who we think's going to win them and why. The first big one that
Yes.
was announced was Yuri and Pereira for November.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I'm sure me and you are going to agree on this tape because, listen, we like Yuri, we really do. We love Yuri, we love Yuri's fights, but he's going to get sent to a different realm of shadow. You know, this isn't just going to be a shadow realm knockout. This is going to be the realm after the shadow realm.
Yeah, I think how active Alex Pereira has been is going to really benefit him. How inactive Yuri's been now, that's not by choice. That's because he's been injured. I think
Yeah.
their styles clash not well for Yuri. I think Yuri is too easily hit. I think we've touched on this before. Yuri's too easily hit. Alex is going to crack him in the exchanges, and Yuri's going to be out cold inside 3 rounds. Sorry, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Yuri Prohaska, he has great grappling. Like he submitted Glover to Shearer. Like he's got a dangerous submission threat. I don't ever think Yuri's going to go with that kind of route, though. I don't see him. If Yuri Prohaska goes in and turns into Yuri Nurmagomedov, then I'd be very, very surprised. Um, I think he's going to go in there like he usually does. He fights the same way every fight. He's on a huge win streak, but he's coming off a big layoff. And again, the UFC wants Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira for. The UFC, well, that's what they wanted. They wanted Israel Adesanya to beat Sean Strickland. They wanted Alex Pereira to beat Yuri, and they wanted that 4 fight to happen for the double champion status. That's not how it's panned out, but they definitely want Sean Strickland to win. Alex Pereira to win that belt.
Yeah, I think it's an insane achievement if he does beat Yuri. Like, I don't think this guy's even had 12 MMA fights, and
Yeah,
he's possibly going to be he's going to be a two-weight world champion. That's really
it's crazy.
impressive. And he's been so active as of recent as well. Like he didn't take a long off after Adesanya KO'd him. He came back and fought, in my opinion, one of the worst stylistic matchups at light heavyweight for him in Jan Blachowicz, and he beat him.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, Alex Pereira will be riding in on a high here, like, and especially going in there, he's going to be looking for revenge for Glover here, and he's going to take Prohaska's head clean off his shoulders inside
yeah. I
three
mean,
rounds.
we'll see, man. We'll see what improvements Yuri's made because maybe in this layoff, again, we don't know, but we do know what Yuri usually looks like, and he's never really changed his style. It either works or it doesn't work. He's been hurt in a lot of his fights, and I know for a fact people are actually questioning Alex Pereira's power. Alex Pereira hits harder the heavier he is. He's just one of those fighters.
Yeah,
Um, I think we'll see that when he touches Yuri with one of those left hooks. That's a great fight. John Jones and Stipe, the closer that fight gets, the more excited I'm getting for it. The more I'm like, maybe Stipe might come back looking all right.
I just think he's too old now. I just
Yeah,
think he's too old. There's been too much layoff, like too much time taken off. And John Jones is just he's just better. He's just better than Steve Miocic. I did see now this could be a hot I see actually seen this hot take. 2016 Stipe would win this matchup. What do you think about that?
against John Jones now.
Yeah, it just said
Hey,
Stipe would
that's
win
good.
this
That's
matchup.
good. That's a good take. I'm not sure if I agree. I actually think John Jones's style is always hard for Stipe. Um, John doesn't really overextend himself. Stipe's got really good straight punches. He's quite well rounded, but I always think John, just like DC did when he used it, John's wrestling and grappling would have overcame him. But John's fought once at heavyweight. Stipe from 2016 could absolutely beat John Jones. The Stipe now, 41. Here's what I'm going to break down for you lot, right? Here's the promo for this fight. 41, 2-year layoff. He is a fireman. He is a warrior, but he's going to get dominated. I love Stipe. I really, really do. Can't understand a word he says at times, but I really, really understand. I really, really like him, but I don't see it. And I think it's a shame if John Jones retires after this fight.
Yeah, I think if Jones retires after this Stipe fight, I don't really see the point in him moving up to heavyweight if he is only going to do two fights and retire. No, I do think John Jones is going to steamroll Stipe, in my opinion. But it's so hard to judge John Jones at heavyweight because we've seen what, like under a minute, I think it was, or
Yeah,
maybe like just over a minute and a half. And I don't know. I mean, I think this main event's going to be pretty boring. I think the saving grace of this card is the Pereira Prohaska fight. I don't think the main event. I think it's going to be either John is going to go out there and just ragdoll him and submit him, or TKO him on the ground very early on, or John Jones is going to dominate him and beat him in a very, very boring decision.
yeah. I mean, Stipe, like we said before, he's just been his last fight. He got flatlined badly, like his legs bent up. Have you seen that knockout?
Yeah,
I
it's
watched it back,
ridiculous.
like that Ngannou Chet left hook. Oh my god, that took years of his life off of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah, I think we're both in agreement on that fight. Islam Makhachev and Olives. Now, again, this fight, I was kind of thinking at first, I was like, Islam might just be better. He might just do what he did last time. But the closer this fight gets, the more nervous I'm getting because I'm getting that feeling that there's a bit of an upset in the air. But that being said, Islam will win.
Yeah, no, I fell into this trap the first time when they fought, and I thought, oh, Oliveira's been on such a streak. He's he'll be better than Islam on the feet. Is he better than Islam on the feet? I'm not sure. He hits a lot harder than Islam, yes, but in terms of all round ability on the feet, I'm not too sure. No, Islam will maul Oliveira. He will make it look easier than he did in the first matchup. And then when he eventually goes on to face Volk in the rematch, he's going to ragdoll Volk and finish him inside 3 rounds. So these are just my takes. I think he's going to dominate Oliveira. Gaethje will probably fight. This is the way I see it. Oliveira will lose to Islam, and this is a bit. I was actually thinking about making this as a video, but I'm not sure. I'll just say it now. I think if Oliveira loses the Islam, which he will, there's a high chance Oliveira retires. What do you think about that? I think he retires.
Um, I don't know if he'd be ready to step away. I think if he lost to Islam, he'd want like a bigger money fight. Conor McGregor comes to mind. Conor McGregor's that fight that Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira will probably always stick around for, just in case it happens, in my opinion. I don't know if he'll retire. I don't know if he'd move up in weight. I don't see him having any success at welterweight.
But yeah, that's my
But
thing. Is
yeah,
like
and
if he loses, I can't imagine that, like the UFC, if he loses the Islam again, he's gonna have to have at least 2 to 3 contender fights to get back into the title picture. He's gonna have to be like the Max Holloway of lightweight. He's too small for welterweight. He can't make featherweight. He's 33 years of age. He's made a boatload of money. And Oliveira's been around for so long. And the guy's taken so much damage. I think because he
yeah,
looks so good now, people forget what Oliveira was like. This guy was getting beat by everybody. Paul Felder was just staying on his guard. And I'm pretty sure he tapped the strikes against Paul Felder. Like people forget all this. Oliveira's taken so much damage. He's been around forever. So I just think after that, he's made so much money. He's 33 years of age. He won't, he'll have to be like Max Holloway at lightweight, fight every single contender. And I just don't think Oliveira's going to do that.
yeah. It's like yeah, I think you're onto something. He's taken a hell of a lot of damage. I think that shows in his durability. His recovery is really good, but his chin, it's not necessarily there as much anymore. I do believe, obviously, as we both know, he's a much better fighter now than he was back then.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
100%.
he still has a lot to offer. I mean, in that first Islam fight on the ground, it was pretty much a stalemate. Islam was getting the better of him, but I don't think he'll ever be able to maul Charles Oliveira unless he has him hurt, and then like he did before, get the arm triangle because Charles Oliveira's hurt, and then he took advantage of it. But when Charles Oliveira's fresh, the only thing that wowed me up, and I tell this to everybody, I screamed out loud at my TV when Charles Oliveira pulled guard at the start of that first round. I mean, I think he probably might do it again. Like Islam Makhachev said it himself, Charles Oliveira just puts himself in car crashes. He likes to be in the fire. He likes to fight people at the wrong game. But the way for Charles to win is forward pressure. I believe his vision is a lot better than it used to be. His head movement was much better against Beneil Dariush, but Beneil, he's nowhere near as good with like quick combinations as Islam. That's something that's super underrated about Islam. Like in that first fight, Charles, he couldn't get away from him. He didn't see him coming at all. Islam would come in with these like 4-punch combinations, and Charles would look like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think Islam will TKO Charles. This time I'm going to go in the fourth round. I'm going to go with, I think Charles might hurt Islam. I think this is going to be a bit more competitive this time. And I actually think there's a chance. I don't know if it'll happen, but I've been thinking about this. I actually think Islam Makhachev might retire soon. I don't know if it'll be after this fight, but like Khabib, I think Islam Makhachev is someone that is seeing the exit door already. I just don't think them kind of fighters want to stick around too long.
I mean, yeah, that is a fair point. To me, I think Islam will stay around because I know him and Habib are like close friends, but there has to be a part of Islam that's like, I want to be better than Habib and to be better than Habib. I honestly think if he beats Oliveira in the rematch, I think you could argue he is the greatest lightweight of all time. And if Oliveira wins, you could argue he's the greatest lightweight of all time. I'm just going to pull up these stats quickly, just so we can speak about them just while we're on this point. So yeah, this is for this matchup. So if Islam beats Oliveira, he'll break the longest win streak in lightweight history, and he will have won against a top 5 pound for pound fighter 3 times in a row. That's insane. That's an insane stat. Where if Oliveira wins, he becomes the first 2-time lightweight champion, and he's beat the entire top 5, and no one else has ever done that. So GOAT status is on the line for this matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's very possible. Man, Khabib, he really didn't stick around long enough. Obviously, it's very, very understandable why he retired.
Yeah.
Very understandable. I hate when a lot of people these days have forgotten why and say like he was running. No, he retired for a very understandable and honourable reason. But, I still think you could argue that Khabib's, his row of defences against McGregor, Poirier, and Gaethje was so dominant and so impressive that alone would still keep him in the conversation. Because even Islam hasn't looked that dominant. It's Khabib's dominance, and the fact
Yeah.
that McGregor, Poirier, and Gaethje almost had nothing for him. And that was like Poirier coming off a Max Holloway 2 fight where he looked, as hot as he ever looked, as hungry as he ever looked. Gaethje, he looked pretty good. He was on a bit of a tear. He just absolutely pasted and knocked Tony Ferguson straight out of his prime. And Conor McGregor, of course, was coming back a superstar after fighting Floyd Mayweather. So the context behind Khabib's biggest wins keep him up there, in my opinion. But I mean, if Islam beats Charles Oliveira, again, if Charles Oliveira was to go out there and smoke Islam first round and vice versa, Islam did it to Charles Oliveira, they'd have to be the GOAT. For me, it depends on performance. But one more title defense after Charles Oliveira, and I think this is what we were going to get onto, because I think that Volkanovski 2 fight has to happen. It should have happened. Volk shouldn't have to fight Yair or Poirier. He should have fought Islam straight away, in my opinion. He gave Islam his toughest fight. There's questions from the fans. We both believe Islam got the decision, or at least I think you did.
Yeah.
So this is a good fight, and it needs to happen. But if Islam was to beat Oliveira and then Volk again, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah, I just think there's so much riding on this, and with the Habib matchups, yeah, like we said, Habib didn't stay around for long. He is very dominant. He was very dominant in his matchups. Like you said, no one really offered him anything. But Islam looked really dominant against Charles Oliveira in the first matchup. Well, not very dominant, but you know what I mean. Like he put on a good performance against Volk. My argument there would be, um, for anybody saying about Habib, did Habib ever fight anybody at the level of Volkanovski? Volk was pound for pound number one when he went and fought him. Habib never fought a pound for pound number. Did he fight anybody in the top three pound for pound? I'm not sure
No.
because Gaethje wouldn't have been, Poirier wouldn't have been, and McGregor definitely wasn't when they fought. So that's just another thing to take into consideration when you're comparing Islam and Habib.
Yeah. Again, something I want to bring up actually, because I made a video, I don't know if you agreed with it. I said Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, and Alexander Volkanovski are all above Khabib in the GOAT debate. Now, me and you have criticised Israel Adesanya heavily. We're not
Yes.
too sure we're a fan of him as a person, even. But Israel Adesanya has 7 championship wins. Khabib has 7 good wins in his entire career. Lewis,
Yeah, it's
more specifically, Israel Adesanya and Khabib, who's greater?
Israel Adesanya. And like it has to be now. Habib in his matchups looked much more dominant than what Adesanya does in his. And obviously Habib hasn't been beaten before. But Adesanya he lapped his entire division. Now, some of those were favourable for him where Marvin Vettori got the win, and then it was like 6 weeks later he had to step in and fight Adesanya right away. So the UFC have done things like that. They try to do it with Dricus. They've done it with Strickland. Obviously, it backfired on him, but you can't take it away. Adesanya, he's got so many more title defenses. Usman is definitely above him in my opinion. See, now that
100%.
now that he isn't champion, how do people not realize how great of a champion he was? Now, was he cringy? Absolutely. He dressed weird. He said some weird things, but he was active. He was extremely active as a champion, and he fought anybody. It didn't matter who it
Yeah.
was.
See, Kamaru Usman, in my opinion, is second greatest welterweight of all time. No, that is not bad because GSP is number one. And Kamaru was not far. People are forgetting that. He was not far off GSP's title defences, I do believe.
No, he wasn't.
And he wasn't that far off. If he beat Leon Edwards, again in that first fight, which he was very close to doing, you know, it's just the way it ended up for him. The thing with Khabib is another thing I want to talk about too. It's like we already said, he didn't stick around long enough. But if Khabib was around today in that lightweight division, do we think Khabib, and let's say even they wouldn't have ever fought each other, but let's say Islam was open to fighting Khabib, would Khabib Nurmagomedov be champion in today's seed?
Um, yeah, I would say yes. I would say he would end up lapping the division again. I think Islam Islam would be the big if they were to fight. If they were to fight, that
That's a bit. That
that's
first
a
of all, that is an
banger.
incredible fight. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is an incredible fight.
that's insane. I think if Habib had stayed around, there would have been a lot of things we wouldn't have got. Like I'm not too sure if Volkanovski would have moved up or if Habib would have even entertained that matchup. I'm not sure. Habib wouldn't have moved up the welterweight, in my opinion. I just, the more I think about it now, the more we're talking about it, Habib probably did leave at the right time just to move everything on, just to move it
Yeah,
all on.
Khabib was quite active when you think about it. I believe Khabib wasn't. I think he'd fight like twice a year. I don't know.
It all
I
depended on
can't remember.
Ramadan with him and stuff, didn't it? I know it's the same for Islam
Yeah,
and stuff, but
yeah. So I mean, the thing with Khabib and Islam, what a fight! That is borderline 50-50. Khabib and Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira could cause Khabib a hell of a lot of problems. Now, the
yeah,
reason why I say that is because Khabib takes a lot more risks on the ground than Islam Makhachev. And Charles Oliveira, if you're in a fast-paced grappling exchange with him, he'll find a submission attempt. Do you know what I mean? He'll try and get something. So I believe, you imagine the scrambles with Islam and Khabib. Holy moly.
Yeah, it would
But
be insane.
I'd say Islam would have beat him because I think Islam would have stopped the takedowns. And I think he has better striking. But because Khabib wouldn't respect Islam's wrestling, would he have drawn him into like a dogfight, into like a war? And who would have won that kind of fight? It could have been like a Colby Usman fight where it's just like a pure war, a pure stand-up war.
Yeah,
Um,
if
like
if
you
it
said
ended
to
up to
Volt,
be
yeah,
if it
like you
ended up
said to
being on the
Volt, like
feet, Islam would have beat him.
you think,
Yeah, if they had if Habib wouldn't have been able to get Islam down, Islam would piece him up on the feet like.
yeah, maybe. I mean, the only thing I will say about that fight is I'm pretty sure. Now this is traded; it's not real fighting, but everyone from that gym, I do believe, says Khabib always got the better of Islam. Always. Now I don't know if that's true, but if so, that is insane.
Yeah, that just shows you the level of Habib.
Yeah, that
But
he was still improving. That Gaethje fight he looked better than ever.
yeah, like he smoked Gaethje. That was ridiculous. That didn't it looked like Gaethje just didn't deserve to be in there with him. How easy he just beat him.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. Like the way he decided not to put him in an armbar because he didn't want to hurt him, so he choked him out instead.
Yeah, like what? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. What,
Um.
what about
What?
the other fights that have been announced then for December? December's card looks stacked. Paddy Pimblett, Tony Ferguson. Who do you think's gonna win it?
I think Paddy's going to beat Tony Ferguson. Um. Here's the thing: if Paddy comes in this fight even slightly unconditioned, Tony will smell blood. I still believe he has that capability to sense when a fighter's not fully up to it. For me, it's a case of if Paddy actually didn't have camps where it was purely focused on losing a load of weight, he'd improve a lot. He's
Yeah,
quite athletic. He's got quite good jiu-jitsu. Oh, shit. He's got quite good jiu-jitsu. Um, but for me, it's Tony's just so over the hill that even Paddy, I think it'll be competitive though, which is why I made that video where I basically said,
yeah. I was gonna bring
even
that
if it's
up.
competitive, even if it's slightly competitive, Paddy loses.
Yeah. I don't know. It's difficult. Honestly, I don't know who will win that because Paddy fights with his chin in the air quite a lot, and in the losses Tony is taking, he does knock people off balance. He does rock them. He still has that power in his hands,
Yeah,
but he just moves so slow.
yeah, he
And like,
does.
I don't know. Maybe it's because Paddy, in my opinion, did not look great against Jared Gordon, so it kind of just makes me think everybody will be Paddy Pimblett now, and that obviously
Yeah,
isn't the case. But yeah, I think it's a lose-lose unless he goes out there and knocks Tony Ferguson out inside a round or chokes him out inside a round. It's a lose-lose. And I made a video about talking about the press conference. So obviously that press conference is going to have a lot of big personalities in it. Paddy, Tony, Colby, Annie, and Gary. I mean, you can put Leon Edwards in there, but he's not really the
no,
way they are. Paddy Pimblett, I said this. The UFC can't let this guy speak. Anytime he speaks, people hate him even more.
yeah,
Anything he says, people just turn on him. Every single like anything he says.
yeah. I mean, Paddy, it's a strange one because I really liked the mental health post fight thing he did, the post fight speech. I don't think he's a bad person. A lot of people seem to question it. I just don't think he's a very good fighter. That's just my opinion. I don't ever see him becoming champion or even a top 10 solid contender. Um, Look, I don't know if he's a terrible person. I mean, there's that stuff about him being racist in the past. He said some stupid things, but he's also done some good things. So I kind of just think he's an all right guy. I don't think he's a bad fighter. I just don't think he's a very good fighter. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't think he'll break into the top 10, unfortunately. For me, I just find him annoying, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't know. I don't know him personally. So what we
yeah.
see on stage is completely different than what he probably is like in person. But yeah, we're gonna go over this card here just because we're running a bit short on time. So we're both saying Paddy Pimblett will beat Tony Ferguson. And then I will go on to Ian Gary versus Vicente Luque. What a matchup. That'll be a good fight.
In my opinion, it's very favourable for Ian Gary at this
Yeah.
stage of Sensei Luque's career. Not only can he be hurt and stopped now, that we know, Vicente Luque used to have an iron chin, doesn't have it as much anymore. He stands very straight, tall, doesn't really move his head. I don't see this fight going to ground. The low calf kicks of Vicente Luque could cause Ian Gary some problems. He hits quite hard too, but I'm sure you'll agree. Ian Gary will probably win this one by stoppage.
Yeah. I do have Ian Gary winning this matchup. What I will say about Ian Gary as well is let's not have this guy on the mic either, hopefully. I mean, and he said everything. He kept going on about what Neil Magny said about his son. Um, you obviously knew he didn't mean that, and he spent the entire build up talking about it. No one cared then, and then after he won the fight, he kept going on about it. No one cared then either. Um, he's put up a thing today, and it's actually funny we're making this where he's had like a voice recording. I think it's the weirdest shit ever. A voice recording of him and Vicente Luque talking about like this matchup and how they're friends. It's only business and blah blah blah. Why?
Yeah, it's like here's the thing with the welterweights actually. So this is going to be my like weekly Don J MMA rant because this kind of winds me up now. I'm getting a bit sick of Ian Gary being friends with everyone in the division. I'm getting a bit sick of this friendly. Oh, we won't fight each other. I won't fight Shavkat. I trained with him once. You know, get
Yeah,
a grip, fight each other. We've got a division to move on. Me and Don Dada have content to make. Start fighting and get on with it. We don't care if you're friends. If you're friends and you don't want to fight each other, move down, move up, get out the division. Ian Garrett, I'm sure you wouldn't do well at middleweight, but if you're friends with Vicente Luque, oh, I don't want to fight him, so I don't want to fight him. Move up then. It's that simple. We
yeah.
don't care. We just want to see the fights. We want to see some trash talk. You know what I mean?
It's it's only a welterweight though. It's like the majority of welterweight all train together. And like this is another thing, right? And this is for anybody who's ever been in an MMA gym or a boxing gym, right? You will train with a lot of people, but a lot of people you won't really be friendly with. There is no way in that gym, like Usman, Ian Gary, Shavkat, everybody's best friends outside of it. No way. I
No,
highly doubt they even spend any time together outside of the gym. Now, what I
I
will
know.
say is the Aljo and Marab, now those guys are always with each other. So I kind of see their point, but they still need to fight each other. But I kind of get that because they seem to be friends outside of the gym. But there's no way Ian Gary's friends with Shavkat. No offense. Shavkat doesn't really speak that very good English. So how can they all be best friends with him outside of the gym? Kamar
Yeah,
Usman, he fucked off the team elevation for a couple of fights. Now he's came back, and now everybody's like, "Oh no, we're best friends with him." No, fight him. He left your gym, and now he's came
yeah.
back. Call him
And
out.
it's like Gilbert Burns, like Ian Gary was like Gilbert Burns. Oh, that's my boy. Again, Gilbert Burns is a top 5 contender, Ian. If you fight and beat Gilbert Burns, you're up there in the rankings. And I know people don't want to fight their friends, but you're telling me they're all best friends and they all get together, they get naked in the woods and they're all hugging each other and probably doing other stuff to each other. Head on with it, you know what I mean? Like people don't like Colby Covington. At least Colby Covington is talking a bit of smack. Because if Colby Covington wasn't in that division would be so stale. And Colby hasn't fought in 2 years nearly. But
Yeah,
he
it's
just, even him
ridiculous.
just talking at least keeps a bit of interest. If he wasn't there, people might not like him. If Colby wasn't there, it would be so boring.
Yeah, it's just the weirdest weight class in the UFC. Um, but we'll move on because there's another welterweight fight on this card. So we're both saying Ian Gary's going to beat Vicente Luque. Next up, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov Stephen Thompson. I'll let you go first, and then I'll say my opinion.
So I do believe you think Steve. Do you think Stephen Wonderboy might pull this off?
Yes, Stephen Thompson is going to beat Shavkat Rakhmonov by decision. Shavkat is one of the most overrated fighters at the minute on the roster. This guy was getting touched up by Jeff Neal, right? Now, Shavkat, in terms of grappling, levels above Stephen Thompson. Everybody can agree on that. On the feet, Shavkat is going to get pieced up. Now, Wonderboy is like 40 years of age, but he still moves like he's like 25. So this guy's going to be in and out. Now, does he hit as hard as Jeff Neal? No, he doesn't. But he throws a lot more. He's got a lot more variety in terms of the stand up, the
He's a
kicks
lot
as
more
well.
accurate.
If Shavkat cannot get Stephen Thompson down, Shavkat Rakhmonov will lose this fight by decision.
So my take on this is we've seen this go on a million times. We've seen it with Gilbert Burns. We've seen it 100 times. We always go, but Stephen Wonderboy, he's so much better, on the feet. If he doesn't take him down, but then he gets taken down and he gets controlled for the entirety of the fight. Now, as much as I agree, Shavkat Rakhmonov to me really struggles to put defense and offense together. He looks really good defensively when he's not hitting, but he lacks when he's throwing a few shots. And then, like Jeff Neal, he'd throw a few shots at Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal would answer back, and then Shavkat really wouldn't have any head movement. But the power, bearing in mind Stephen Wonderboy, his chin isn't as good. It's not completely withered. He's definitely a lot more hurtable. His durability, like his hands, he seems to be hurting his hands a lot in fights these days. He's still super accurate. His side kicks are going to give Shavkat a lot of problems. But in my opinion, Shavkat forward pressures Wonderboy. Wonderboy fights like he's worried about the takedown, so he doesn't put as much volume on Shavkat. And then Shavkat will take Stephen Wonderboy down. Now, I do think there'll be times in the fight where Wonderboy certainly pieces Shavkat up. But like I said before, Shavkat's momentum, Shavkat's at this stage of Wonderboy's career. I see him hurting Wonderboy, getting Wonderboy to the ground. I don't think he'll submit him, although it's very possible. I think he wins via a decision, 10-8 every round.
Look, all I'm going to say in my defense here is Stephen Thompson said he only wanted to fight strikers towards the end of his career. He didn't want to fight grapplers. He obviously sees a fault in Shavkat for him to take this matchup. That's all I'm going to say. Stephen Thompson to win by decision. Next, we've got the co-main event. We've only got a couple minutes left. We've actually only got 2 minutes left. Brandon Royval, Pantoja. Pantoja wins the rematch.
Yeah, Alexander Pantoja is a brilliant fighter. He's kind of going under the radar a little bit. I'm noticing not a lot of people. It's just the flyweight curse. Some people it's just not a division that grabs people. I don't think. It's not necessarily my favorite division. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it is, but yeah, I have Pantoja beating Royval comfortably. Don.
Yeah, Royval, he's pretty big for flyweight, I'm near certain, but Pantoja's already beat him. He beat Brandon Moreno in a lot of the grappling exchanges. I think he's going to be a lot stronger than Royval in that matchup, and I think he is going to win quite a lot of their grappling exchanges. I don't know if he finishes him, but I'm going to say Pantoja will win by decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. Either a late TKO or a decision win.
And then finally, we'll cover this fight again closer to the time, but we're just going to go quickly here. Leon Edwards, Colby Covington. In my opinion, Leon Edwards will finish Colby in the 4th round.
I've gone over it a million times, but I just think Leon will control him to a decision win. Colby's got quite a good chin, so I don't see him knocking him out.
I'm going to go for the knockout. I think he just pieces Colby on the feet. I think he's going to be too strong for Covington to take down against the cage. I think he's going to be too strong. But yeah, I don't know how long we've got left, but we will be back again. We'll discuss these fights closer to the time when they are. I think next episode we're maybe going to do a GOAT tier list, or we might react to some more hot takes. But yeah, we'll see you again in the next episode.
Thank you all very much. See you then.